Ladies and gentlemen, everything in life is keeping a record. Every action, every inaction, every excuse. And one day, the bill comes due. Neglect is deceptive. It whispers, just this once won't matter. But neglect never shows you the full invoice up front. It charges quietly, daily, compounding. Neglecting your health doesn't hurt today, but it sends a message to your future body. Neglecting your finances doesn't feel painful now, but it programs future stress. Neglecting your skills, your relationships, your mindset doesn't scream. It waits. And when it collects with interest. Here's the truth most people miss. You don't drift into success, you drift into failure. Success requires intention. Failure requires neglect. Now let's talk about consistency. Consistency is not loud. Consistency doesn't need motivation. Consistency doesn't rely on mood. Consistency shows up when enthusiasm is gone. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. A small action done once is an experiment. A small action done daily becomes an identity. Read 10 pages a day. You become informed, save a little every week, you become secure, practice your craft every day, you become valuable. Consistency is how ordinary people produce extraordinary results. And here's the paradox. Neglect feels easy now and hard later. Consistency feels hard now and easy later. You will pay a price. The question is when and for what? Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. When you choose consistency, you're not just building results. You're building trust with yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence, leadership, and success. Your habits are speaking on your behalf every single day. They are either working for you or testifying against you. So decide today. Decide to stop negotiating with neglect. Decide to stop delaying discipline. Decide to do the small things consistently, even when no one is watching, because the reward of consistency is not just success, it's peace, it's freedom, it's options. And the cost of neglect, you already know. Neglect is never free, even though it pretends to be. It disguises itself as comfort, convenience, and I'll do it later. It makes you believe there is no consequence for postponing responsibility, no penalty for avoiding discipline, no price for ignoring what you already know you should be doing. But neglect is patient. It doesn't argue. It doesn't rush you. It simply keeps a quiet record. Every time you ignore your health, your body remembers. Every time you avoid improving your skills, the marketplace remembers. Every time you delay having the hard conversation, the relationship remembers. Neglect may not send an immediate notification, but it always sends a final statement. And that statement is never discounted. What makes neglect dangerous is that it compounds invisibly. One missed workout doesn't weaken you. One ignored opportunity doesn't ruin you. One careless decision doesn't break your future. But repetition turns small oversights into permanent outcomes. What you neglect today doesn't stay the same, it grows. Problems that are ignored don't remain manageable. They multiply, mature, and demand more later than they ever would have, required now. Neglect is costly because it steals twice. First, it steals the opportunity you could have had if you acted early. Second, it steals the energy, time, and resources you must spend later to fix what could have been prevented. Prevention is always cheaper than repair, but neglect convinces people that delay is harmless, when in reality, delay is just debt with interest. And the harsh truth is this: life does not punish people for what they don't know. It charges people for what they ignore. Awareness creates responsibility. Once you know better, neglect becomes a choice. And choices create consequences. You are either investing in your future or silently financing a problem you will eventually have to face. Neglect is never free because time never forgets. Time magnifies whatever you feed it, effort or avoidance, discipline or delay. And in the end, you don't pay for neglect with money alone. You pay with lost potential, missed opportunities, and a future that could have been better if action had come sooner. Small decisions are never small once time gets involved. In the moment, they feel insignificant, almost invisible. One choice here, one shortcut there, one extra delay that seems harmless. But time has a way of magnifying whatever you give it. It doesn't judge the size of the decision, it multiplies the direction of it. Every small decision is a vote for the person you are becoming, a vote for the life you are building. You don't wake up one day successful or unsuccessful. You arrive there gradually, carried by the accumulation of choices most people never paid attention to. What looks like overnight success is usually the result of thousands of quiet decisions made when no applause was present. Small positive decisions work like interest in your favor. Reading instead of scrolling, saving instead of spending, practicing instead of procrastinating. These choices don't create instant breakthroughs, but they create momentum. And momentum, when sustained, becomes transformation. The power isn't in the action itself, it's in the repetition of it. In the same way, small negative decisions compound against you. Skipping discipline today makes skipping it tomorrow easier. Tolerating mediocrity once lowers your standard permanently. What you excuse repeatedly eventually becomes your lifestyle. The danger is not the decision, it's the direction that decision points you toward. People often wait for big moments to change their lives, not realizing that big moments are built on small decisions stacked over time. Destiny isn't shaped in dramatic leaps. It's shaped in daily choices that feel too ordinary to matter until they do. Compound growth is quiet. It doesn't announce itself early. But give it enough time, and it becomes undeniable. That's why consistency in small decisions outperforms occasional brilliance. When you respect the power of small choices, you gain control over outcomes most people blame on luck, fate, or circumstance. Your future is not created by what you do once, it is created by what you do repeatedly. And every small decision you make today is already working on tomorrow, either for you or against you. Pain is unavoidable. It is woven into growth, responsibility, and progress. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling an illusion. The difference between those who build a meaningful life and those who live with disappointment is not the absence of pain, it is the type of pain they choose to endure. There is the pain of discipline, and there is the pain of regret. Discipline hurts early. It demands effort when comfort is available. It requires saying no when excuses feel easier. That pain is temporary, purposeful, and productive. Regret, on the other hand, hurts late. It arrives when time has passed and options have narrowed. It brings questions that can't be answered and opportunities that can't be reclaimed. Most people try to avoid pain altogether, not realizing that avoidance doesn't eliminate pain. It postpones it. What you refuse to face today will confront you tomorrow with greater intensity. The workout you skip, the skill you avoid developing, the conversation you delay, all of it returns, asking for payment at a higher cost. Regret is optional because it is built on decisions you had the power to make differently. Regret grows from moments when you knew what was required but chose comfort instead. It is the weight of untapped potential, the burden of what could have been, and the echo of chances you let pass while waiting to feel ready. Pain that comes from effort strengthens you. Pain that comes from regret weakens you. One expands your capacity, the other drains your confidence. One moves you forward, the other traps you in reflection. And the cruel part is that regret often lasts far longer than the discomfort you tried to avoid in the first place. Every day presents a choice between these two paths. You can endure the short-term pain that builds character, skill, and freedom, or you can accept the long-term pain of wishing you had acted sooner. You will feel pain either way, but only one choice allows you to grow from it, and only one allows you to look back without wishing you had chosen differently. Intensity is impressive, but it is unreliable. It shows up when motivation is high, emotions are strong, and conditions feel right. Consistency shows up regardless. That's why consistency always wins. Intensity burns hot and fast, but consistency builds quietly and lasts. Anyone can be intense for a moment. Anyone can start strong, make a bold declaration, or have a burst of inspiration. But life is not changed in moments. It is shaped in patterns. What you do occasionally creates stories. What you do consistently creates results. The real power isn't in how hard you go once. It's in how often you return to the work. Intensity depends on how you feel. Consistency depends on who you've decided to be. When your actions are tied to emotion, progress is fragile. When your actions are tied to identity, progress becomes inevitable. Consistent action removes negotiation. It turns discipline into a system instead of a struggle. Small, consistent effort outperforms extreme effort that can't be sustained. A moderate pace maintained over time will always cover more ground than a sprint that leaves you exhausted and quitting halfway. That's why people who rely on intensity often start loud and finish nowhere, while consistent people finish quietly but far ahead. Consistency also builds trust with others and with yourself. When you show up regularly, you become dependable. When you keep promises to yourself, your confidence grows. Over time, that self-trust becomes a competitive advantage most people never develop because they keep restarting instead of continuing. Intensity may get attention, but consistency gets outcomes. Consistency compounds skill, deepens discipline, and makes progress predictable. And when success becomes predictable, it stops being a matter of luck and starts being a matter of process. Delayed gratification is the ability to say no to what you want now so you can say yes to what you want most. It is the discipline of choosing long-term freedom over short-term pleasure. In a world trained to seek instant reward, this choice feels uncomfortable. But that discomfort is exactly what separates those who are controlled by circumstances from those who control them. Every time you delay gratification, you break dependence on impulse. You stop being ruled by appetite, emotion, or pressure. Instead of reacting, you decide. And the moment you gain the ability to decide, you gain power. Freedom doesn't begin with more options, it begins with self-control. Without it, even abundance becomes a prison. Short-term pleasure often looks like relief, but it quietly trades tomorrow's peace for today's comfort. Overspending buys a moment of excitement, but creates months of stress. Avoiding effort feels easy now, but produces limitation later. Delayed gratification reverses that trait. It accepts temporary discomfort in exchange for lasting stability, confidence, and choice. The people with the most freedom are rarely the ones who chased every desire. They are the ones who mastered restraint early. By sacrificing now, they remove future pressure. By exercising patience, they gain leverage. Delayed gratification doesn't restrict life. It expands it. It turns discipline into opportunity and patience into power. What makes delayed gratification so valuable is that it compounds. Each time you practice it, your tolerance for discomfort increases and your dependence on external rewards decreases. You stop needing immediate validation because you trust the process. That trust allows you to move differently, decide differently, and live without urgency or desperation. Freedom is not doing whatever you feel like doing. Freedom is having the capacity to choose what serves you best, even when it's hard. Delayed gratification creates that capacity. It builds a life where you are not forced into decisions by pressure, debt, or lack, but guided by purpose, preparation, and control. Your habits are never neutral. They are always paying you something every single day. The only question is whether they are paying you in progress or in problems. You don't wake up and choose the results of your life. You wake up and repeat the habits that create those results. Habits are the invisible system behind everything you see. Behind confidence is a habit of preparation. Behind chaos is a habit of avoidance. Behind growth is a habit of consistency. What looks like talent, luck, or circumstance is often just the long-term payout of repeated behavior. The danger of habits is that they feel harmless in the beginning. The reward or consequence is delayed, which makes it easy to underestimate their impact. But habits are patient investors. They collect small deposits of time, energy, and focus, and then return those deposits multiplied. What you practice daily eventually becomes permanent. Good habits pay slowly at first, but generously over time. They require effort before they produce visit. The results? Bad habits pay quickly but briefly, and then begin to charge you. Comfort now becomes struggle later. Discipline now becomes ease later. Everyone lives off the returns of their habits, whether they are aware of it or not. Your habits also shape your identity. Repeated actions send a message to your mind about who you are. When you consistently do what's difficult but necessary, you see yourself as capable and reliable. When you consistently avoid responsibility, you reinforce doubt and limitation. Over time, your habits don't just produce outcomes, they produce beliefs. You don't need to overhaul your life to change your future. You need to audit what your habits are paying you and decide if the return is acceptable. Because sooner or later, the payout arrives. And when it does, it reflects exactly what you've been practicing all along. In the end, Life always balances the books. What you neglect will eventually demand attention, and what you nurture consistently will eventually reward you. Small decisions, repeated daily, are shaping outcomes long before they become visible. Pain cannot be avoided, but regret can. Discipline may feel costly in the moment, yet it is far cheaper than the price of inaction. Consistency, delayed gratification, and intentional habits are not sacrifices. They are investments that buy freedom, confidence, and control. The future you desire is not created by a single breakthrough, but by daily alignment. When you choose consistency over intensity, purpose over comfort, and discipline over delay, you shift the direction of your life. And direction given enough time determines destination. Decide today to pay the price that builds you, not the one that breaks you, because what you do consistently will always decide what you deserve eventually.